What's up, y'all? I hope everybody's doing well. We're here for our weekly energy oracle forecast, just taking a look at the week ahead to see what kind of energy we'll be living and moving and having our being in. First card out is sorrow. So we are in a Mercury retrograde in Cancer. And I know that Jupiter has just moved into hot girl summer Leo. And we're all ready to shake off the cobwebs. But this damn Mercury retrograde in Cancer is going to have us reflecting on our distant wounds. I think that there's something, I can't remember. I just heard somebody talking about a transit of something going, Taurus is moving into Chiron, and it's about like this next stage of healing. Taurus or Aries, Chiron has been in Aries, which has been dealing with like our wounds to do with our self-identity, right? Self-abandonment and things like that. But the next phase of Chiron is going to be healing our security, our material stability. And so that transit of this has been part of our wound care. And now this is kind of healing up. And you know, when something's at the end stage of healing, it gets itchy, you know, it's uncomfortable. Like I've got this spot on my wrist, it was like poison sumac or something, and it is like more itchy now than, you know, it has been over the last few weeks because it's almost in the end stage of itchiness. It's almost healed. This has been bringing up, like, it's not just thinking back about, the last relationship and stuff like that. This is going back into like deep childhood conditioning. Things in our childhood that we experienced or witnessed or went through that led us to take on certain programming within ourselves unconsciously that is built sort of like an operating system that we're not aware of. And that operating system is from a child's point of view, there to keep us safe, but it's actually a snare and a stumbling block to our growth and our progress and our advancement. And a lot of these patterns are playing out as like low-level trauma responses that our nervous system is just used to going back to these coping mechanisms and habits. And so in order for all of this to be revealed, it's like all this old stuff has to come up and all these old feelings are going to be coming up. But we have a different vantage point to relook at all of these things now from a different perspective, hopefully from a stronger, more healed place with more, with more wisdom and understanding and more distance from it. And hopefully that can serve to not reopen the wound that we need to pick at and like go into the victim, place again, but rather see, the remnants of this old stuff that I've worked through again and again and again, the last kind of effects of it are still clinging on a bit. And if I can just see those for what they are, then it makes it so much easier to dismantle those tendencies and behaviors. But part of that is going to be these moments of sadness that come up and sorrow. And I was just with my family today for my sister's birthday, and just like some of our distant family stuff comes up. It comes up every time we're all together. It's like, it's infuriating to me. But I mean, right now I was even there knowing like these are the 3 most difficult weeks of the year. Like just try not to get super triggered. Try not to shut down completely. Try not to let this throw you in a state of sorrow for the rest of the week and depression and grieving. But also don't avoid this and numb it and run away from that either, right? So we want to not suppress the sorrow and not run from the sorrow, and also not wallow in the sorrow, but observe the feelings. Over the last couple of days, I've had some extra days off from work, and I've been watching a lot of my Kabbalah classes. They're a Zoom class, but I end up watching the replays and stuff because they're usually on my work nights. And one of the classes that I was watching last night actually was talking about how if our feelings are really loud, then that's an indication that we need to look at our thoughts and our intentions, and those need adjustment. Because what comes first, the thought or the feeling? It might be easy to say that your feelings come up first and then you have thoughts about those feelings, but actually it's really the thoughts that plant the seeds for the feelings. And the feelings give you information and feedback, but the feelings aren't necessarily telling you the truth or the real story. They're just giving you feedback to observe, okay, I'm alerted to the fact that I need to re-examine my thoughts right now. What are my feelings telling me about my train of thought, right? And is there real truth in that? Or is the feeling, the belief that's coming on the other side of the feeling, a result of just feeding into thoughts that aren't necessarily objectively true, right? Ooh, gluttony. Wow, what a week. I think that we're all, okay, so like, I know for me, at the heat of the summer, like literally with food, it's just like you don't have as much of an appetite in the heat and the humidity and all of that. The industries slow down in the summer, so money is tight, right? And so we might be reflecting this time of year during these 3 weeks. Where have we been excessive? Where can we cut back? Where are we being gluttonous with our spending, with our food, with our attention, right? With our time? Where are we overdoing it, right? In any area. There could be, and that could be causing us sorrow, right? What if you had, let's say, you have an ongoing stress and a problem that's coming from the fact that you're overdoing it in an area where you could like rearrange your priorities and your resources, right? Like if it's literal, you may be depressed because you struggle with problems with food, right? Or things with the diet, or struggle with having control around food. I know for most of my life, I was brought up in a family who was so preoccupied with body image and with body dysmorphia and with fad diets, with crash diets, with diet pills, with anything, right, around food. And then it was like, growing up in, the 80s and 90s, we didn't realize all our food had this high fructose corn syrup, right? And so none of it's giving us any nutrients, and yet it's spiking our cortisol and our blood sugar like up and down. And so it's like, I think a lot of us were already struggling with like projected body image issues, and then we were being given food that left us hungry and swollen and fat and puffy and sick, and it put us on a cycle that is hard to break, right? And so we've had to relearn to have an entirely new relationship with food and with our body and with our health and with our well-being. I saw it in one of my other family members, in a male family member who had gotten a little teased last time he was home for an event because he'd put on weight. And at other times in his life, he's been really in shape and chiseled. And I sat there and I didn't want to be a black cloud on the event, but it was like, he came in like a month later and all of a sudden he's looking pretty like he's lost like a crazy amount of weight, and he's like all of a sudden all in shape again. And it's like everybody kept obsessing over this. And I just wanted to be like, you are giving everyone eating disorders and body dysmorphia. And you're only now encouraging this because he's like on an extreme diet, watching like every calorie and every metric and obsessing. And it's like, this is now happening to the men now who are trying to look max. Now they're obsessed and manorexic and have all the eating disorders. So it's like, even that obsessive control over wellness and dieting, that is gluttony in and of itself. It has a complete hold over you, and you aren't liberated from that. You don't have freedom within that relationship, within that experience. This is causing you grief. If you're, an impulse purchase shopper, that gluttony that gets in that causes you to want that little treat in the moment, and then you have, financial anxiety and worries and regrets later, right? And you look and you're like, oh my gosh, all of this impulse spending, I could have, done wiser things with this, put it into greater value. We were just talking about it at home. We were like, our family had money for a minute. So many of us did in the 90s. And my parents, like, they spent money on like dumb stuff, as if we were rappers or boxers, title boxers. We were like, we had permanent seating licenses at the Titan Stadium, and we had like jet skis and like stupid crap that's not going to be worth anything later. But like all the siblings wanted was just a pool. Please just put an in-ground pool. And we still want one now. We were like, man, imagine if we'd had that pool, all that money that was squandered would have actually raised the property value, right? So it's like, think about like just slowing down over these 3 weeks and observing, okay, when you're getting these like anxiety attacks, or when you're like struck with like this disembodied grief or sadness, or when you're struck with memories that fill you with this sorrow, unpack it a bit, but try to do it constructively so that you can connect the dots of what root thing is leading to the surface level symptoms in your life that are festering, that are causing the sorrow. There's deep sorrow that is like ancient sorrow that is now percolating into symptoms that are causing coping behavioral mechanisms that are then leading to fresh sorrow. And they're just perpetuating the cycle. It's going to be a great week, guys. I can't wait. Maybe we're going to be sad because there's going to be so much wealth and riches. We're going to be full we're going to be stuffed from eating all this organic, expensive produce. Hopefully, we're going to just be so sad. Oh, I don't fit my jeans anymore because of my clean diet with all these groceries. I got damn near $600 worth of groceries. I'm full. Let's hope. Oh my gosh, it costs $600 to grow one tomato in a backyard garden. They're like, learn how to grow your own food. It's like, girl, yeah, that's also $1 million. And you're fighting everything in nature to do it. Releasing, letting go, you guys. This is a big purge week. And, it's no surprise because we just had our full moon, right? So we're in the final quarter of the waning moon, I think. So as the moonlight wanes, you want to be like getting rid of all that psychic garbage, right? This is when you take the trash to the dump, so to speak. So we want to let go of resentments, right? And that doesn't mean that you have to get all back together and have a chicken, picnic again and be best friends. But it means that you can, maybe there are certain people that you have to keep distance from in order to heal. But it's like, let yourself heal and stop holding on to the fresh resentment. Try to work through the feelings and process them enough so you can get to the other side of it. And it doesn't have such a hold over you, and you don't have such a hold over it. Because if we are putting our sparks of light, our miraculous God-given energy into things of negativity, then it just exposes us to the force of death and judgment and negativity, which causes chaos, which causes illness, which causes, our resources and the flow of like cosmic harmony and blessing to just dry up. But when we're putting our focus and our attention and our awe into the light and positivity, and we're using those sparks for good and for regenerating and correcting and repairing and healing and beauty and building and harmonizing, then we're revealing eternal light. And when we can start to prioritize our perspective and just choose a higher consciousness, then we do start to have a more fulfilling experience. Because not only are we not weighed down by all of those feelings that follow us around like a cloud over our head, but those feelings and all of those thoughts are also not generating more of the same, attracting more in that you don't want. And we cap the week off with joy. So we're releasing all of these things, this obsessive, hold over whatever it is, the gluttony that's causing us issues. The gluttony is probably coming from the sorrow, the buried sorrow. The buried pain is festering, and the reactive behavior to this hidden sorrow that keeps coming up and wanting you to see it, but we just don't want to deal with it, right? So the behavior that comes on the whenever this rears its head to be dealt with once and for all, it ends up being a coping mechanism or an avoidant mechanism that leads to some sort of gluttonous behavior or gluttonous thought pattern or whatever it is. And then that sends you into a cycle of more things to be sorrowful about. Instead, we can work on releasing the anger, doing whatever we can to put ourselves in the conditions that can be ripe for healing. And if that means that you have to distance certain people or really manage the amount or the way that you spend time with them, then so be it. I know that I've had to come to this place with my dad, because every time I've been around my dad for years, I've tried to have a relationship with him. And every time it's like this fresh wound that just makes it impossible to, it's just like once you've finally gotten like kind of your head above water, it's like puts you back down again, So there's only so much you can do in certain situations. And of course, in a situation with your parent, it's like, that's the last thing you want to do. It's the last case scenario. But if you're, going through your whole life and your whole life is stunted because you've got this kind of an abusive influence over you, then, you've got to eventually make a boundary there. So yeah, it's when it comes to family members, that gets confusing. And sometimes we don't know how to navigate those situations, and they can be really difficult to navigate. And it probably takes a lot of prayer. And eventually it takes being able to make people uncomfortable and unhappy. But it's in order for your own self-preservation, right? It's like they don't have to be the ones who are picking up the pieces after the event. So it's easy for them to criticize from the sidelines, right? So people don't understand, because no one has the same relationship. No two people have the same relationship. Even siblings that grew up in the same house, they don't have the same relationship with their parents, right? Look at your workplace. Does everyone have the same relationship with your boss? Probably not. Same with every situation, right? So, somebody doesn't understand maybe how insidious a person is to you when they're not to them, right? So they can sit over there going, you're being too hard on this person, or, you just need to see it another way, or whatever. And maybe that is true to some degree, but it doesn't mean that it's any more healthy for you to be around this person. So maybe, choose what, carefully, and pray about it, how you need to handle those situations. But ultimately, the goal is to try to release the resentment. So if you need to distance yourself from someone because they keep giving you heaping piles of fresh resentment, then that's kind of something that you're trying to do proactively to start repairing any kind of hope for a future relationship with this person. But it's not going to get any better while you're just seething with rage and resentment after every time you spend time with them, is it? So maybe you need some distance to reset, But either way, we're working towards joy. Joy is something that comes when we have humility and appreciation. And even when life brings us times like these, where it's like the 3 most challenging weeks of the year, we see it ultimately as an opportunity to be able to reveal brighter and deeper and more expansive joy in our lives. Because joy is a muscle. it is a talent, it is a gift, it is a decision, it is a discipline. It doesn't just happen for people. Happiness is sort of conditional, anybody can like have a happy moment, something can happen and makes you happy for a minute. But having deep, abiding joy, regardless of life's twists and turns and circumstances, in the midst of all the disappointments and things that are unexpected and hits that we take, right? It takes determination and perseverance to maintain joy. It really does. And it takes an ability to be able to hold a paradox. We have to many times hold grief in one hand, sorrow in one hand, and joy in the other, right? But if we don't have joy, then the Shekhinah, the Spirit of God, cannot be near us. The Shekhinah will not come into a space that it shares no vibrational resonance with, that it bears no affinity with. So in order to actually protect ourselves, to have any shot at having the presence of God, enjoy being with us and be close to us and cover us with that shelter, we need that joy. I believe it was Jacob, I think it was Jacob, that his son was sold off. Yeah, Joseph. So Jacob's son Joseph was sold off into slavery, and Jacob thought his son was dead. And so for many years, he was just devastated because he loved him so much, and he was in such sorrows. And even though he was a patriarch, he was not even like the Holy Spirit he was not blessed. It was like he was cursed for years while he was in this grieving. And the Holy Spirit had kind of left his household. And you're like, wow, that doesn't seem fair, but it's because of resonance, energy, vibration, like attracts like. If something is like something that's completely immaterial and it's an energy, it's like a vibration in and of itself, it can't be in a space that has no affinity. It bears no affinity with it, right? So it wasn't until Joseph revealed his true identity to his brothers that approached him once he had become the king. Like, fast forward, Joseph is sold into slavery. He's imprisoned in Egypt. He becomes a very popular prisoner. He was like a prophet for the jailers and the people in the court. People would have him come interpret their dreams. And so because people like Joseph so much, they're like, let's promote Joseph. Why is Joseph in jail? Let's get Joseph out of jail. And so Joseph ended up being a king of Egypt. And then eventually his brothers that sold him off into slavery needed his help at one point, and they came to his court to plead for his assistance, and they didn't recognize him. They didn't know it was their brother. And so eventually Joseph was like, should I reveal myself to them? And he did. He's like, hey, it's me. And it ultimately restored their family. But as soon as the family was restored and Jacob found out the truth that everything was restored, it was like the sun shone on the house again, and he was blessed and he was prosperous again. So it's our joy that makes us prosperous. This is why the adversary sends something to rain on our parade, to shit in our cereal. Every time we feel good about ourselves, the opponent tries to knock us down. That's why, we call them pendulums. This was a coin termed by one of the readers that I really like. One of the only ones I really watch anymore. His name's the autistic mystic. His name's Austin. He calls them pendulums, and he describes pendulums as these malicious spirits that kind of will jump into unwitting hosts, any kind of people that are around, to slow down and get in your way, to just be fumbling idiots in your path, get on your nerves, to divert you away from what you were going to do, to distract you, to do anything to keep you off your path and off your purpose. They send you into, okay, maybe you're vibing too high that day and you're about to reveal a big blessing because you're feeling, motivated and confident. The pendulum will jump into somebody and they'll say just the right thing to set you off and trigger you, make you feel depressed and make you question all your life's decisions. And then you're off of your high-flying disc, as Abraham Hicks would call it, and then you're not a channel for blessings. So the opponent loves to fuck with your joy. Right? So we need to understand that our joy is our ultimate power and it's our ultimate protection. I mean, obviously God is our ultimate power and ultimate protection, but the way that we channel in this force in our life and keep that connection strong is through our joy. There are certain things that seal our connection with the Creator, and there are things that sever our connection with the Creator. And negativity and depression and sorrow and gluttony and all of those 7 deadly sins, they sever our connection with the Creator because, again, there's no affinity. We don't bear affinity, but when we do bear affinity, when we are shaping ourselves to be like the Creator and refining the parts of ourselves that are like lowly animalistic consciousness, we restrict that part of ourselves, we refine it, we become more like the Creator, we reveal more joy, and we have more, we're in that cosmic flow of connection, that connection is tight. And so Michael Berg, from the Kabbalah Center, the head teacher at the Kabbalah Center, I guess you'd call him the director, he'll always say that the only fear that we should have is the fear of cutting off our connection with the Creator. So the fear of cutting off our connection with the Creator, you would notice if you're getting into, like, say, anxiety about finances or something, or you're on a tear about someone who's pissed you off. It's like that emotional storm, that emotional upheaval inside of yourself, that turmoil, that's cutting off your connection with the Creator. But you know what's going to reconnect you real quick? Inner peace. Knowing that the Creator's with you, choosing joy, choosing to believe that things are going to work out, even if you can't see how it's going to happen, the Creator's with you. And when you know that, when you see it, and when you claim that, you state that, it's like you activate the power that was already there, but the power's there, it's just dormant. God is omnipresent. God is in everything. The power is there, but it's dormant until we see the Creator, or until we choose to see the Creator and activate that Creator in the situation through our faith, through our certainty. You know, somebody recently was wanting me to do like a video on like crystals or whatever. I might get around to doing that, but I do like crystals, and I do think that they are useful. I think that they do something. But the thing is that if we get obsessed over the crystal being the magic, then we kind of like cut the magic off. Or we can still channel that magic because we know how to manipulate the laws of the universe, but like that magic comes with like credit card debt. Like it comes with a spiritual credit card interest debt, if that makes sense. It comes with a little bit of chaos. But if we see that it's not necessarily the rock, like, yes, there were, like, the rock is like the stone here. Here's a piece of Amazonite. So this does have, metaphysical properties, and it does help do things. The frequency of it helps, brings calmness and clarity, amongst other things. But it's more like a vitamin or an antenna. It's not that this is like the source of the magic. It's just that when I realize that God is within the light of God, sparks of light from God are within this mineral, then knowing that God is within the mineral, that is what activates the power of the stone. And that's what allows you to absorb that good energy when it's around, because you're like, oh, God gave me the stone. God put the energy into it. It's not that this magic stone is magic in and of itself. It's just that it's channeling. It's a vessel. It's a channel for the light of the Creator, just as the trees are, just as the plants are, right? Just as we are to one another. Or channels of light for the Creator. So anything that we can do to protect our joy, we remember that it's not selfish. It's actually the thing that keeps our connection to the Creator strong. Because think about it, when we're not in joy, that's an indication that we're certainly not in a state of appreciation or gratitude. If we're not in joy, we are in the opposite of joy. It's like, okay, well, we need to turn it around. This is like, there's some red flags right? It's like, okay, my joy is gone. Okay, I need to do like an emergency assessment here, emergency self-care. Okay, I need some prayer, I need some meditation, I need to, shift my perspective. I need to think about things that I'm grateful for and shift my focus, shift my energy, right? Because that's what is going to be the most protective in the end of the day, is the feeling of joy, not the feeling of anxiety, right? Anxiety has never prepared us for disaster. I mean, we can think about things and plan and do what we can, but just the feeling of anxiety doesn't get you anything but like haphazard recklessness and high blood pressure and physical ailments. But joy actually starts to repair the body, and it can get you into a flow state and a relaxed enough state where you can hear the voice of wisdom coming through and not feel panicked and reactive. All right, so let's just review. We've got sorrow. Don't be afraid of it when it comes up. Don't get lost in it either, but actually work with it to dismantle the automatic programming. Be on the lookout for gluttony, or if your financial or any other anxiety comes up this week about maybe, I need to cut back this, or I've been overdoing that. Like, maybe pay attention, like look to see in what areas of your life you may be overdoing it. It might be like staying up too late or drinking too many energy drinks so you can't get any sleep. Like, it could be hiding anywhere. We're releasing fears, resentments, anger, sadness, regrets, all those things that are eating us up inside. We're letting it go, and we're letting all of that decay grow into something else. We're letting it grow into nurturing wisdom and understanding. And on the other side of the week, and hopefully during the week, we can always remember to check back in and reclaim our joy. Recenter, get your joy. That's what we protect, the joy all week long. Hold on to your joy. All right, that's all for tonight, you guys. We'll see you tomorrow for our weekly anchor message, where we'll be getting our spiritual lessons for the week. Till then, ciao.